the camera world is currently vibrating at a frequency we haven't felt in years. If you've been hanging out in the forums, refreshing the leak sites, or just keeping an eye on the big three as we close out 2025, you know exactly what we're talking about. We are standing on the precipice of a new era for Nikon, and the name on everyone's lips isn't a brand new niche product. It's the successor to the camera that arguably saved the brand's professional reputation. We're talking about the Nikon Z8 II. With the recent volcanic shifts in sensor technology and the seismic impact of Nikon's acquisition of Red Digital Cinema, the stage is set for a sequel that doesn't just iterate, it dominates. Let's know everything about the upcoming Nikon Z8 II. The rumor mill isn't just whispering anymore, it's screaming. And the loudest shouts are coming from the video department. When Nikon bought Red, we all knew things were going to get interesting, but we didn't realize how fast that cinematic DNA would start showing up in the Z mount. The most persistent leak regarding the Z8 II involves the introduction of Red Code RAW and the R 3D workflow directly into the internal recording options. Imagine a Z8-sized body capable of shooting 12-bit or even 16-bit RAW with the color science that has defined Hollywood for a decade. We are hearing reports of 8K 60p becoming the standard, but with a massive twist: unlimited recording. The rumors suggest a completely redesigned thermal pathway, possibly using new carbon fiber composite materials that act as a passive heatsink to ensure that the overheating warning icon becomes a relic of the past. But it's not all about the filmmakers. The still photographers are getting a massive boost in the brain department. While the resolution is expected to stay in that sweet spot of 45.7 megapixels to 50 megapixels, the magic is in the speed. We're looking at a refined stacked sensor with a readout speed that could potentially eliminate rolling shutter artifacts, even in the most niche, high-frequency LED lighting environments. Rumors of an Expeed 8 processor suggest we could see burst rates hitting 30 frames per second in full RAW. With an AI-driven autofocus system that feels less like tracking and more like telepathy. This predictive AF 2.0 is rumored to recognize not just eyes and faces, but the specific intent of a subject, detecting the difference between a bird about to take flight and one just sitting on a branch. The biggest hurdle for the Nikon Z8 II isn't the technology, it's the hierarchy. Nikon has a very delicate balancing act to perform here. They have to make the Z8 II better than the original Z8, competitive enough to fight off the Sony A1 II and the Canon R5 Mark III, but worse enough that people still have a reason to buy the flagship Z9 or its inevitable successor. This is the Goldilocks challenge. If Nikon gives the Z8 II a global shutter or 120 frames per second RAW, why would anyone buy a Z9? If they don't give it enough of a spec bump, why would anyone upgrade from the original Z8? The challenge is to find that middle ground, where the Z8 II feels like the ultimate hybrid. The industry is watching to see if Nikon will use this release to redefine what a prosumer camera is. There is talk of a 9.44 million dot EVF that finally matches the industry leaders, providing a blackout-free experience that feels as organic as an optical viewfinder. They also have to address the ergonomic evolution. How do you make a camera that is rugged enough for a war zone, but light enough for a 12-hour wedding? The rumor is a modular grip system, or significantly deepened thumb rest that makes the camera feel like an extension of the hand, even when paired with heavy glass like the 400mm f2.8. You can't have a release this big without a little drama, and the Nikon Z8 II is already stirring the pot. The first point of contention? The timeline. The original Z8 is still, by most accounts, a world-class machine. When the news of a potential Mark II started leaking so soon after the massive Black Friday 2025 discounts on the original, some early adopters felt a sting. There's a growing debate in the community. Is Nikon rushing this to capitalize on the Red acquisition? Or is the tech moving so fast that they have no choice but to refresh? Then there's the price controversy. Early whispers suggest a launch price of $4,499. For a camera that doesn't have a built-in vertical grip, that's a steep mountain to climb. Critics are asking if Nikon is pricing itself out of the enthusiast market and moving strictly into professional-only territory. And let's not forget the ghost of the recall. The original Z8 had a rocky start with its strap lug and lens mount issues. While Nikon handled it professionally, the internet has a long memory. The Z8 II is under immense pressure to be perfect out of the box. Any tiny physical flaw, a loose button, a squeaky hinge, a software bug, will be magnified tenfold by a community that is still slightly wary of version 1.0 problems. The controversy isn't just about what the camera can do. It's about whether Nikon can regain that built-like-a-tank reputation that defined the F-mount era. Despite the debates and the challenges, there is an undeniable electricity in the air. The Nikon Z8 II represents the moment when the new Nikon, the agile, tech-forward, cinema-focused powerhouse, finally comes into full bloom. It's the convergence of legacy optics and futuristic processing power. If the rumors are even 80% accurate, we aren't just looking at a better camera. We're looking at a tool that bridges the gap between the photographer and the cinematographer in a way we've never seen. Whether you're a wildlife pro waiting for that telepathic AF to nail the shot of a lifetime, or a wedding filmmaker looking for red-level color in a body that fits in a backpack, the Z8 II is shaping up to be the answer. Nikon isn't just playing defense anymore, they are on a full-scale offensive. The competition is fierce, the stakes are high, and the expectations are through the roof. But one thing is for certain, for those of us who live and breathe this gear, it's getting really, really good. With an AI-driven autofocus system that feels less like tracking and more like telepathy. They also have to address the ergonomic evolution. How do you make a camera that is rugged enough for a war zone, but light enough for a 12-hour wedding? We're looking at a tool that bridges the gap between the photographer and the cinematographer in a way we've never seen. If the rumors are even 80% accurate, we aren't just looking at a better camera. The controversy isn't just about what the camera can do. It's about whether Nikon can regain that built-like-a-tank reputation that defined the F-mount era. Thanks for watching.